Hello everyone, and welcome to this session at the ACT conference. My name is Mark van Ommen. I'm one of the partners at Zanders, Treasury advisory firm. Today we want to touch upon a topic that we see that a lot of our clients are getting impacted with, and that's the trend of wider finance organizations going on SAP upgrade journeys, so-called S/4HANA upgrades. Following the latest SAP technology. And another piece of technology that we see being implemented there a lot is SAP Central Finance. And what we see with Treasury departments particularly is that that's a kind of project or transformation that's triggered outside of the Treasury function, but that really impacts the Treasury function a lot, and maybe also creates opportunities for the Treasury function. Related to that, what we also want to touch upon today is the wider trend of new ways of connecting to the banks and leveraging new technology compared to connectivity channels that may have existed 5 to 10 years ago already. And what we will see hopefully in the discussion today is that there's a lot of interaction between those two topics. So we have a nice and varied team of people to discuss this here today. I'll quickly introduce the three panelists, starting with Hallvard Eikeland, Head of Cash Management Infrastructure at Equinor from Norway. Santi Alcaraz, Executive Director EMEA Digital Channels at JP Morgan, and also my colleague Sibren Schilders, Manager at Zanders based in New York, who's also worked with a lot of clients on the area of S/4HANA and Central Finance. Well, welcome to all three of you, and thanks for joining us today. Much appreciated on this virtual panel discussion session. Really looking forward to your views on the topic. So maybe to start with, and to give the people who are dialed in a bit of a flavor of why you guys are here, maybe you can quickly describe where in your role you sort of touch upon the topics that I mentioned. Maybe Hallvard, if we can start with yourself.
Yes, I can do that. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, my team is, as you mentioned, the cash management infrastructure team in Equinor, and that team is actually responsible for setting the direction and the strategy on how we do cash management solutions, including the bank connectivities. So we also have a dedicated team in our organization that is actually responsible for setting up the solutions and also aligning with the broader IT function when it comes to security, core systems, interfaces, and so forth. While we also have another team in our shared service organization that is running these operational tasks related to cash and treasury, and that will typically be payments, bank reconciliations, cash forecasting, and also running our internal bank in SAP.
Santi, over to you.
Hi, Mark. Hi, hello everyone. So my name is Santiago Alcaraz. I work in the digital channel product solution team at JP Morgan for the EMEA region. I mean, our team focuses on developing solutions and integration solutions for large corporates. That's one of the aspects that we focus on. The other one is industry integration and finding solutions for industry providers such as ERP and TMS systems. So we look after all aspects of the integration, from payload connectivity to solution to security, and we look at a full range of integration aspects, from traditional host-to-host integrations to ERP-specific integrations. For example, developing tools that sit within SAP to allow you to output a payment file in a specific format. And more recently, there's a huge area of interest is developing solutions that are API-based. So the way of integrating API, how can we integrate solutions that utilizes API infrastructure and API tools into ERP and TMS systems.
Thanks, Santi. And finally, Sibren, yourself.
Yes, hi, my name is Sibren, as already introduced by Mark. From a consultant's point of view, of course, we are active in various cash management and banking setups on a daily basis at various corporates, as various of our clients. Most involvement, of course, always occurs in a project context. This ranges from a vendor bank independent strategic review and design of, for example, a new cash management structure, all the way to the actual configuration and setup of, for example, bank connectivity, and then also everything else in between. Now, next to the actual project work, it is of course crucial to stay up to date with the new developments in the market. And of course, by doing so, we are able to inform our clients on the latest and the greatest in this area.
Thanks, Sibren. So I think we should really have three nice different perspectives here on the topic: the corporate's view, the bank's view, and the consultant's view. I think the only possible view we're missing is the system provider view here, but hopefully between the three of you, there comes some nice insights today. Maybe Hallvard, to go back to you. I think what we know is that Equinor was you were really one of the first corporates, I think about 20 years ago, to really implement a full-blown SAP-based treasury architecture, a payment factory and treasury solution. Where's Equinor today in terms of bank connectivity, cash management, and how has sort of technology helped you get to where you are today?
Yeah, you're right. We had a quite big project around 20 years ago where we implemented SAP, the in-house cash payment factory model, as it looked like 20 years ago. So this was done together with a quite massive centralization initiative where we actually put all kind of stuff into our SAP, becoming our main ERP system, but also our TMS system to a great extent. As other companies, we also have other systems connected with SAP, like the trading business and so forth. But the main activity related to cash and banking all flows through our SAP system. So that was done 20 years ago. So where are we now? Well, a few years ago, we kicked off a project where we actually moved to the S4 solution for our treasury and banking and payments solution. This was kind of the first, I think we'll talk about that maybe a bit later today, but we were kind of the pilot in our company, the first one moving to S4, which was actually quite interesting, a lot of attention, but also a bit difficult since we are not on the same, let's say, technology anymore. It was a quite huge project. We had help from the external market, from consultancy companies and so forth, and it was taking a lot of our time. So we went live last year, around September last year, which kind of you can perceive as, yeah, now we have reached the finish line. We have reached our goal, but we see it a bit differently. We see it more like a start for the new possibilities that we will hopefully harvest going forward. It will be typically do more automation, reach our business case when it comes to be more efficient, meaning less people doing maybe the same task that we had before, and also the typical APIs, which is a very buzzword. I'm not sure if it's a buzzword, but it's definitely something that all corporates should relate to in some way. And we think our new platform will give us great possibility to take what we need from that part. So we are currently now working on a strategy on how to respond to that massive information and activities in the market. How can we utilize it for our processes? The benefits, we had a clear business case, so I think we have taken the benefits. When it comes to very new solutions, I'm not sure I think we have more optimized what we had, but what we never did 20 years ago, and I know other corporates did, was to implement the full on behalf of solutions. We did that now, and we have especially see on the COBO side, or the collection on behalf side, that using also virtual accounts or virtual account reference number has really made a difference for us. And we see that our traders in the energy trading is getting that information much quicker in the morning. So next step could maybe be some real-time data possibilities, and then quite interesting to see what's going on in the market in that particular space.
Yeah, thanks, Hallvard. It's really interesting to see that indeed Treasury team was one of the front runners on this S4 HANA migration within Equinor. Maybe Santi, over to you. Do you see this as a topic that your clients are concerned about or thinking about? Is it not a topic for them at all?
No, I think it's super topical, to be honest, and more clients are actually, seeing the importance that is to work on these migration programs in a very methodical and a very efficient way, because they can see the benefits that if you do this project right, that they will bring. I've been working at the bank or in the banking industry now for longer than I care to remember, over 20 years, and this is probably one of the most exciting times, if not the most exciting time that I've come across in the industry. The technology available from an SAP perspective, from a ERP landscape, together with the regulatory changes, together with the technology advances, and which they encompasses into APIs, are offering a whole new range of opportunities to redesign, rediscover the way that, from a bank perspective, from a corporate perspective, we interact and we operate. But it's very true that you really have to focus and think about what you're planning to do, what your end goal is, and just really plan it quite nicely. I mean, it's super complex. We talk about these things quite lightly, but there's so many different systems that interact that making a little change, changing the technology that you use to interact from one part to another, can detrimentally affect the whole ecosystem. I mean, this is like, changing a wheel on a car that is going on a motorway at 17 miles per hour. That's the complexity that sometimes is overstated when we look at implementing new technology or implementing new systems. So yeah, I mean, to me personally, and I think to the bank that I represent, it opens up a whole new raft of opportunities to better interact with our customers and with clients, and really, a way, or it gives us new tools to be able to look at solutions in a completely different manner, right? To be a little bit more bold and creative that we have been that we've been in the past.
Yeah. Thanks, Santi. It sounds like very exciting developments at your clients as well. Maybe to take a step back, there may be people listening who are not so familiar with S4HANA or where it impacts Treasury. Sibren, you recently wrote a nice article on sort of the cross-section between the S4HANA wave of migrations and the optimization of cash and banking related processes at corporate treasuries. Maybe a brief summary from your side on what the dependencies and the interlinkages are here?
Sure. Many corporates actually see the two topics as completely separate. Many corporates see S4HANA upgrade as purely technical, just an upgrade. And on the other side, cash and banking as purely functional, operating my cash and banking procedures. By separating the two, they're actually leaving quite some value on the table because, of course, they are connected. Taking it even a step further, SAP S4HANA can actually be in the driver's seat for optimization of cash and banking processes at corporates. Now, that's a rather strong statement, so let me elaborate on this a little bit further. And as you might be aware, SAP S4HANA offers significant improvements compared to the ECC version in the Treasury and Finance area, actually selecting Treasury and Finance as prime candidates to migrate over to S4HANA. This means that bank connectivity and S4HANA transformation strategies can create significant value if you just take the two of them together. That's actually the brief summary of the article. Okay,
thanks. And does that sort of tie into, Hallvard, what you were saying with Treasury being the front runner? Is what Sibren saying something you recognize? Was Treasury involved as a front runner, taking that value when discussing the wider Equinor's SAP and S4HANA strategy?
I think I can recognize what Sibren is saying. Of course, we are moving from SAP to SAP. So in one way, it's not like we are doing something completely different. So we still are quite focused on SAP, which is, I said in the beginning, is both our ERP system, but also to a large extent our TMS system. So everything is flowing through this central system, and I think it was a bit, the strategy of the company is to move everything in SAP to S4. And the treasury part was a good pilot case. First of all, because we saw that we started to get quite some outdated functions in our old SAP solutions. The processes was a bit old. We also saw that we were maybe a bit inefficient in some areas. So we would like to keep the effectiveness, but also improve the efficiency. So, yeah, we can also argue that treasury and payments, cash management is a bit isolated area. So you can in a way disconnect it a bit from the other processes, and that's why it was a good pilot, I think, for our company. So we've been quite involved in it, and I think also our takeaways, learnings from this project will be quite vital for the larger organization when we have kicked off the project as well for the rest of the company with all the other processes. And I'm pretty sure that they will learn both from our successes and from all of our mistakes in this project, and hopefully can avoid and maybe get more of those. We also had a steering committee where we had people in our project that will be quite vital in the next project. So I think it's a good start for the company to continue the journey.
Yeah. Okay. And Santi, just following on what Sibren and Hallvard are saying, if you look at your client base, and I'm sure you speak to clients on a regular basis about these topics, do they see the opportunity here for Treasury to be in the driving seat, or at least at the table of these often finance transformation programs, or do your clients typically see that as something not driven by Treasury, which impacts them, but not being in the driving seat?
No, I think it's again, it's becoming more and more topical, and they feel that, I think they're looking at it more and more in a slightly different angle. They not only are seeing and identifying the benefits of implementing a new technology, but as they are implementing new technology, they feel like they're seeing opportunities to add value to the service that they provide, but also to add value to the internal and external customers. So really quite topical and something that is, I'm sure you guys will agree with me. Whenever you talk about SAP as well, HANA migration, these are topics that are frequently mentioned and repeated.
Yeah. Okay. And Sibren, the same question for you. If you look at your client base.
Yeah, I think I kind of echo Santi's comments. Actually, we get more and more questions from treasurers and CFOs on SAP S for HANA and central finance, and they've heard it and they want to know more about it. And they want to just see if is there an opportunity for them, for their organization, and is there an opportunity for Treasury, of course. Now, Treasury functions within a wider organization, as we all know, where corporate IT policies apply, but this doesn't mean that Treasury cannot take initiative or cannot actively participate in these transformations. And then I can tell you from firsthand experience that the treasurers and the CFOs out there definitely want to take initiative and be involved in these finance transformations.
That's good. And should take that opportunity, I would say.
Definitely.
Maybe to take a sidestep, I think one of the other things, having read the article you wrote, Sibren, is you talk about Brownfield versus Greenfield implementations, as well as Treasury sidecars. Maybe again, a high-level summary and what are the implications of these options for corporate treasuries?
Yeah, indeed. Before I dive down immediately in the answer, let me provide some clarifications. So the term Greenfield and Brownfield refer to migration paths for SAP S for HANA, not per se specific to Treasury, but company-wide, just the way to set up a new system. The Brownfield option involves moving the existing ECC business suite that is potentially there over onto an S for HANA database. This achieves the upgrade from a technical point of view. You're on S for HANA, you're live. But of course, not all the functionality in S for HANA is fully utilized yet. This can then be compared towards a Greenfield approach, where a new S for HANA system is set up from scratch. And then, of course, the processes are migrated from the old system into the new system. And there is, of course, an opportunity here to do some review and optimization since you're rebuilding your processes on the new system. But to be fair, there is, of course, a bigger effort here, and the business risk is significant in the Greenfield opportunity because you're building up your system all the way from scratch. A sidecar approach then is the odd one out here. It actually entails the setup of a separate S/4HANA instance next to the entire ecosystem that is already there. And then once you set up that new S/4HANA system, you're going to migrate over select treasury and/or finance processes onto that sidecar. Hence, leveraging the additional functionality that is going to be available on S/4HANA. And then, of course, in the later stage, the sidecar becomes the target platform to which other work streams can migrate to. With the sidecar approach, effectively, you're phasing the S4 transition into smaller, more blocks that you can easily take on and you can easily manage.
Yeah. So does that sound a little bit like Hallvard, what you were saying that Equinor has done on the sidecar versus integrated option choice?
Yeah, we are definitely a sidecar in this, as I understand the word sidecar. I think we are the first mover. We had the opportunity to move into a new SAP client, if you want. We also had quite some discussion about the Greenfield and Brownfield options, and I think those discussions are very important because both of them require quite some work. It's just different, but you can also break it down to the different treasury functions where it might be a lot of work for the treasury deals, but for the payment factory, it might be let's say the same work to set it up. So having good discussions with the right people to understand the pro and cons on Brownfield, Greenfield, I think is important. Just to be honest, it's not my core area. This is more into the IT discussion, but still it's important that we as the owner of the solution is actually quite heavily involved. I think being a sidecar is also, while the rest of the company is on the old solution, we are on the new one. There are some issues when you do upgrades, when you have some interfaces, and I guess we will also expect to see more benefits when the rest of the company is moving into S4. Now we have a new client that they can move into. So it's a greenfield they can move into, but they can also build a separate or migrate one. So I think they still have a lot of options in the space.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, maybe just taking a side step here away from S/4HANA to more generally on bank connectivity. And Santi, you touched upon this briefly in one of your earlier comments, but if you look at today compared to a few years ago, to what extent do you indeed see clients maybe looking at alternatives to Swift or host to host or using e-banking compared to a few years ago, and what's the response of JP Morgan to this?
Yeah, so very interesting question, and you're quite right in that, so there's been a transition into, we started with electronic banking, then it came house-to-house solutions, and an improvement of the house-to-house solution was the idea of, okay, well, we can do everything through a Swift file connection so that we can centralize and standardize the connectivity as well as the file format, maybe into ISO. Now we have a new kid in the block, if you like, which is this whole thing about API technology, and corporates are definitely challenged, banks and the like and service providers to come up with solutions to allow them to do more, to integrate in a better and more efficient ways. And it's interesting to see the different approaches from corporates, depending on the perhaps the line of business that they're on. They feel more comfortable with the whole API technology. A high-tech company versus a more traditional company in a different business area is going to approach the whole concept of connectivity through API in a very different manner. Also, depending on what you want to do or what you want to achieve, right? Is real-time treasury a very key essential part of your business? Typically the answer at a high level is yes, but do you need to have real-time visibility to your balances? Or is auto-reconciliation in real-time basis critical for your business? Is it a nice to have, or is it something that is going to actually improve the way that you operate? All of those questions are questions that corporates, depending on what they're making themselves, they're asking themselves. And we are fortunate in a way in that we can come up with solutions with API-based solutions that can help address all of those individual questions. I think is a completely, and I always talk about this, is a completely different shift of mind when you talk about APIs and the opportunities that it opens up in terms of integration, not only with corporates, but with your TMS providers and the bank. The three of them can exchange information in a more efficient way. Right? Another good example is, typically corporates will make wire transactions, they'll make payments. There's so many questions around it. Where is my payment? Has it been received? Are they with the beneficiary? Well, API together with GPA technology can provide a very simple solution to allow you to control and answer those questions straight away. You don't need to call the bank. You can have an API that will track and trace that transaction, and will actually tell you not only has that transaction been released by the bank, by the way, has it been received by the beneficiary bank? Were there any lifting charges? Now that 2 or 3 or even 5 years ago, that wasn't something that unimaginable. It's not something that we could even consider. We now have the technology to be able to provide that information, but not only provide that information, but provide that information in real time. That's a good example of what the industry plus technology can do and can offer, as well as there is more things that just payments and reporting. Right? An API is ideal for that. Right? So you could, for instance, consider a scenario where you need to open a new account. Right? You want to know who your authorized signatures are. Well, why not connect to your bank directly and provide and ask that question directly, so that you can get that information feedback to you. So it really opens up the scope, or the traditional scope, of what connectivity and bank integration means. And an API is the ideal tool to be able to do that. Another aspect, another angle is just real-time treasury. There's new payment types appearing across the world. You've got SAP instance, you've got in the US real time. Again, API is the ideal instrument to be able to leverage all that new functionality that is appearing in the industry. And I guess just one last topic in terms of technical integration, and it has to do with the API is giving us the tools and the ability to integrate in a much simpler and easier way. So we can talk. You can talk to your TMS providers, to your ERP providers, and integrate a functionality directly into their ecosystems, so that it removes a layer of complexity. The banks can now integrate functionality, and JP Morgan is has a very clear view in that partnership with ERP and TMS is key for the client experience, and add that functionality directly into that TMS or into that ERP system, so that the integration effort is simpler, and then remove some of the complexities around it.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting, Santi, and I think you touch upon nicely that an API is not just a replacement of an existing connectivity channel, but it also opens up lots of new opportunities in the area of cash and liquidity management and bank connectivity. And maybe Sibren, you get involved in hands-on projects with quite a few clients. What do you see as the practical take-up with your clients on APIs?
Yeah, so from a corporate point of view, bank connectivity, of course, supports crucial corporate processes. So a native reluctancy to adopt a new technology to replace everything that is there is definitely present. On top of that, the technologies such as API have their own teething problems. For example, APIs are targeted towards JSON formats, while most payment schemes are ISO 222 XML-based formats. Next to that, the biggest struggle I would say in this area is the fact that there is no common set of standards to connect to any bank out there. There is no winner, there is no new SWIFT out there yet. And that's a very important remark here. So those two kind of limit the scalability of the API technology for supporting the entire bank connectivity of corporates. Now, we are convinced when the API technology matures and outgrows its starting problems, its startup problems, they will be a serious contender for traditional connectivity methods, and especially given, as Santi explained, very specific use cases, APIs can be the way to go.
Thanks, Sibren. And finally, Hallvard, is Equinor going to be the front runner, the innovator when it comes to API connectivity?
I think we rather see ourselves as maybe the fast follower in this space. I think pilot is nice. Just to follow up what you just said, Sibren, I think it's interesting to say that some reluctancy, and just to give you a bit background on how we do the bank connectivity is that we implemented the Swift Alliance Slide 2 solution back in 2012. So we did not include bank connectivity in the project that I just talked about on our S4 project, because that was a quite big project back then, and we did not only implement Swift, but we also replaced our format, mainly Edifact to XML. We did quite some cleanup in our system, moving more functionality back into SAP or maybe other strategic important systems of Equinor. So we're not that eager to include it, but of course we see now with the new platform and all the APIs. I think I talked about it earlier that we are developing a strategy on how to handle all the APIs that we see could benefit a company like Equinor. I think we are still a bit fresh, we need to learn more about this topic. But I think what I've seen so far that you have different types of API. You have some APIs that you can get into your system, like display APIs. What is my balance? The GPI initiative from Swift. But you have also APIs that you can build and maybe create a kind of a bank agnostic app that can touch into your processes and maybe do some postings and do some more sophisticated stuff. So I think we are looking at both those different areas to see how that can be mainly a supplement to Swift. We don't have any plans of replacing our Swift Alliance Slide 2 solution now, but if you can run the API in kind of in parallel, I think that's what we see as maybe the most relevant in let's say the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Hallvard. So I think to summarize what the three of you are saying is, I think a lot of new opportunities freed up by APIs. Probably if we can take Equinor and some of Sibren's clients as an example, still looking a little bit, maybe not everybody wants to throw their key connectivity process immediately into a new technology, but definitely a lot of new opportunities there. Maybe time is flying. Maybe one final question to all three of you, just to give the audience something to take from this session. What's your top tip to the audience when it comes to their cash management and banking roadmaps? Maybe can we start with you, Sibren?
Yeah, sure. I have many tips on this topic. Some of them are included in the article, which was referred to previously. But the one I want to share here is do not rush the review of your bank connectivity. We have seen at some corporates that initially they are looking to review their bank connectivity, but they're leaving the payment formats completely out of the picture. And I think Hallvard has provided a nice example before where Equinor moved away from the bank proprietary formats over to the ISO 20022 formats. So I think that is just my top tip for today. Do not solely focus on the technology part of it. Also look onto the current bank formats and see if you can gain there and you can gain some ground with standardization toward XML formats. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Sibren. I think that's a good tip. And Hallvard, your top tip?
My top tip, yeah, I think before you start anything, I think it's important with every kind of project. Where are you? Where do you want to go? And it's very easy these days to get a bit lost in all of the nice sales pitches, buzzwords. You need really to understand why you want an API before you start implementing it. On the other hand, sometimes you just need to try it out and say, well, this was maybe not what we needed. So I guess as you also said, Sibren, there are a lot of good tips. I think going through the project that we just had, it's important to have a good business case. I often get asked about that when I go to different conferences and so forth. So you need to have a clear business case, and especially when you plan to take out the effects. I guess most of us that have been through bigger project know that day one is sometimes a quite horrible day. You need some time to get things in place. People need some time to do change management, and so it's important that you are realistic, but you also need the senior top management attention on this to get it through. I think it's what you also need to consider when you have a roadmap or a big project is kind of, okay, when you come out on this project, how are you planning to run and maintain your new solutions? How are you planning to make sure that you have the right competence? How do you make sure that you can scale up and down? A lot of discussion about shared service centers. Should you have some kind of in-house competence on this? So I think that's also something that you need to consider before you kick off a bigger initiative. How is this going to work when you go back, when you kind of disable the project, you go back to business? I think that is quite important for us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense indeed. Santi, finally, your top tip for the people who are listening today.
Yeah, thank you. So just a couple of things. One, and those 2 points are fantastic, really good, but also, be brave and challenge your partners, right? And communicate with all your partners. Yes, you need to have a very robust project plan. You need to you have loads of internal stakeholders. Make sure that you share that your plans with your banking providers, with your suppliers, so that they fully understand what you want to get to. And also, as you define the solution, make sure that it's flexible, that it can evolve, that it can change, because this industry, as we know, is constantly evolving. So if you design the solution well enough, it will allow you to adapt to all the different changes that will be coming down the line. I think that's probably, and also look for what's the low-hanging fruit. There's always little gems that are embedded on the bigger project that can help you drive that project forward, right? And that can help you with all your stakeholders. There's little things that can say, look, we've done this, we've improved this, it hasn't cost us that much. It's a way of helping you substantiate and justify that the huge changes that are taking place within your environment.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Santi. No, I think some.
There, but...
So some really hopefully good tips there from 3 people who are really involved with this kind of stuff on a day-to-day basis. So with that, I think we've come to the end of our time. If I can just recap a few of the key things that you've said. I think first of all, when we spoke about S4HANA, between all 3 of you, one of the things I wrote down is Treasury should really make sure they have a seat at the table, at least, whether it's the driving seat or whether it's at least at the table. But I think you're all saying there are gains to be had with these wider transformation programs from a Treasury point of view, and a lot of the things are in the area of cash and banking. So it makes sense for Treasury to be at least involved there. I think on the other topic, when we spoke about APIs, I think as you said, lots of new opportunities there. But focus on the things that have value, as you said, Santi. Go for the low-hanging fruit, and as Hallvard said, don't get caught up by the buzzwords, but actually understand what the business case is. So with that, really many thanks to Hallvard, Santiago, Sibren, all 3 of you for your participation here. So what we'll do now is we'll actually switch to the live Q&A, where Hallvard will not be there, but Santi and Sibren and myself will be there in case of any questions. So once again, many thanks to the panelists, and please join us for some questions, and after that have a great rest of the conference. Thank you very much.